You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
That's perfectly okay. I can hear you clear. Okay, perfect. We got Saddle Up LLC that says we sound good. We got Tom Sorrell that says sounds good. Okay, perfect. So we can kind of get it into the show. Perfect. Guys, how are we doing? We are live from Jake's Bait and Tackle here for our River 101 in the fall fishing with the group, the core, the legends of the Susquehanna, Shenandoah, and Upper Potomac. Guys, thank you so much for coming back on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Yep.
It feels like it's been a hell of a long time since we've been together.
Yeah,
so
it has been.
I thought,
glad to be back.
I thought while I get the shared thing here, let's just kind of go round table. And since your photos are first, let's just start there and go around.
Yeah.
What has everyone been up to?
Well, great. Since last time, I guess we had a show from here. Had a couple real nice fishing trips. A few weeks ago, I was up in Canada fishing. Just north of the Michigan border, and was fishing up on a lake, Patton Lake. Went up with some friends from here, which included Kenny Gano, as y'all know, from Kenny G's Custom Baits, attended. But we was fishing up on Patton's Lake and some other small lakes up in Canada, and had a great trip. We really caught, it's old school. We was using basically V-bottom boats, 14, 16-foot V-bottom boats with oars, and we had a little 2.5 horsepower motor, had a trolling motor, no electronics. It was just back to the old days.
Roots,
fishing,
yep.
Back to the roots, what we all, remember. And it was a lot of fun, and we really caught some nice fish. The weather, as you know, we had a different August this year. It was quite cool.
Yeah.
And up in Canada, we had some actually very chilly mornings, that far north.
Really?
And so I don't know if it was already starting the kind of the fall transition due to the fact of the cool August. But we caught some nice fish, mainly smallmouth. A couple of the guys caught some northern pike. But we caught some. My big smallmouth was 6 pounds 10 ounces, and I think we got a picture here of it. And it was caught in probably about a foot of water, and I caught it on a jackhammer, and I thought that was real interesting. The fish already moving that shallow in the grass, and at that time of year. Kenny caught a 6 pound 5 ounce smallmouth, and we had several others that were in the 5 pound range. So it was a great trip. Basically fishing with jackhammer, caught several on tubes, and a lot of fish fishing wacky, wacky worm, a wacky rig actually, and it was just a great trip. Like I said, I don't know which pictures. That's a couple of the fish there, but. Can you move them down or?
Yeah, here let me hold on a
see
second.
Here. All right, that was my big fish. That was 6 pounds 10 ounce smallmouth. Caught like I said, caught that in about a foot of water on a jackhammer. And then the lake we was fishing, I think we have a picture of the lake. That's a aerial view with using my drone. Patton Lake. We was actually staying in a little cabin down off of that peninsula.
How big? How big is Patton Lake?
It's I would say it's not that big. It's probably, if Lake Holiday, if you compare it to something like Lake Holiday, maybe 2 Lake Holidays or something about that size. But then if you cross over the mountain there's another lake on the other side. Unfortunately, not good access to get to these places. There's no way of really getting in and out. So it's very limited. This is a very I think the whole week we were up there, I never heard an airplane. I didn't hear, there was no trucks or cars or anything along that lines. It was basically the wildlife. It was very nice. No great trip, great group of guys I went up with. Fred Boyer, he's got a gentleman that's Kenny Gano with the 6 pound 5 ounce smallmouth from that trip.
6 pounds, good Lord.
And going, I think another picture there. And just to show you how beautiful it was, that's just, I was fishing one of these lakes right at sunset. And I just took my phone, turned around, and snapped that shot, and it just looks like almost like a painting. I mean, it's just beautiful, beautiful terrain and wildlife, bears and eagles, and just a beautiful, wonderful, wonderful trip. One of my
You all
favorite
had a bear
fishing
swim
trips.
across the lake,
Yeah,
didn't you?
bear swimming across the lake. Some of the guys were out there fishing. Big black bears just out there swimming, having a good time with them.
Looked like you had a
fishing.
collar or a tag
Yeah.
around the neck.
And Fred Boyer, like I said, I think it's the next picture, Thomas. If we can shine.
Not that
Hold
one.
on, let's go up here.
Oh, no.
This is Tennessee. Oh, we didn't talk about Tennessee yet
Yeah.
either.
Okay, I must have missed that other picture. But anyway, Fred, real nice gentleman I met, became a good friend. He really caught some nice fish. I had a couple pictures there. I was hoping one of them got in, but I must have missed it. Recently, just come back from Tennessee. I was down in Middle Tennessee, was fishing the Duck River, which is actually a real pristine river there in Middle Tennessee. Basically, it's in the past it's been very good for smallmouth. It's been very good for that's Fred Boyer from the Canadian trip right there. That's a real nice smallmouth he caught. That one was well over 5 pounds, close to 6, I think. Just goes to show you what kind of fish we were catching up there. He caught that one also on a jackhammer. So a lot of fun with that trip. The Tennessee trip, we were using live minnows. We was basically just trying to get up some fish for a fish fry. Was really hoping to catch some good eating catfish. River's a very clean river there in Middle Tennessee, and so we were. It's my buddy Aaron Haynes seining some minnows there. We caught a couple of real nice messes of some channel cat. Had a really good fish fry. It was just a fun day, basically floating the river. We had trolling motor, flat bottom boat, and we just floated, and just a good time. It was a really, really nice trip. Caught a few smallmouth. They were small. They were somewhat small. No real large ones, but it was just a fun couple of days on Duck River there in Middle Tennessee. Also got up with a friend down there in Middle Tennessee, Dennis Luttrell. Plan on doing some fishing down on the actual Tennessee River. He's a big fisherman down the Tennessee River there around Pickwick, Wilson Lake, Wheeler Lake. Big cat fisherman, but also bass fisherman, and I'm sure hoping in the spring to get down there and do some fishing with Dennis, who's a dear friend, and try to get on some of the big Tennessee smallmouth. So that's kind of my most recent trips, and bit to fill everybody in on, but really 2 nice recent trips.
What are the smallmouth like in Canada when it comes to just how they act and everything? Because you're talking lake smallmouth.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, interestingly enough, the pattern was up there. It was, we caught them shallow, and we also caught them deep. I mean, we was fishing in some water that was, 30 and 40 foot deep. We was fishing on some bluff drop-offs and catching fish at like probably 20 foot, 20, maybe even a little deeper. So it was kind of, you start thinking about this fall transition pattern where fish start moving around, therefore some of them were catching some really nice fish shallow, but still some were real deep, So, and the lakes we were fishing in were, they were really clear lakes, deep clear lakes. Water was, we didn't have any really way of checking the temperature. Like I said, we had no electronics, but I can tell you, we took a couple baths off in that water, and it was very cold. It was very cold.
Quick ones.
Yeah, very quick dip in and out.
It's kind of wild to think that, though. Again, you're going up north, but like, are they in mid-fall? Like, where are they in the cycle? Are they early fall, late fall,
Well,
mid-fall?
and I got thinking about that, even though we was, at the time when we were there, I got thinking that even though it was a little early for what we would think about down here, I was thinking these fish are just starting to actually start that early fall transition. Is what it seemed like to me. Like I said, I think they were chasing bait fish, up shallow, because that seemed to be the big four. I know there's crawdads there, but I mean there was bait fish. Some of them, spit up some, small or some minnows that So, but I think that was actually probably starting that early transition. Now, obviously, if it warms back, since we've been there, if it's warmed up, I know it's going to probably throw everything in chaos. But, I think that's part of what makes fall fishing sometimes a little more difficult. It's because you see the fish, at different staging different. Some shallow, some deep, some mid-level. And, it's just wherever you are and depending on the water temperature, what might be going on. So that's why, on the deck of your boat, you might have 10 rods, 10 different lures tied on because, you're trying to really cover water and see what you can do to find a fish. And, not like the dead of the winter where if you get on a fish, you might sit there and be on 50 of them, if they're in that one spot. Now, I think right now they're just, kind of roaming somewhat and but starting to work towards that pattern of feeding up for getting ready because obviously up there it's going to be winter and ice on. This lake's it won't be long and it'll be froze over and they'll be ice fishing.
Well, that's the nice thing about up there is that fall transition doesn't have the negative stain that like it has in Alabama and Georgia where you have that fall transition for 4 or 5 months down south. There they got to eat quick because it will be ice out. So.
For example, if you down like on the Tennessee River, down around Pickwick or Wilson or somewhere in the northern Alabama area, it might really be December before you really get on a good, what we would consider a fall bite. It might be then for it's really.
Chris Gorsuch talked about that during the seminar he did here a couple of years ago. Huge shout out to Chris about like we look at a calendar, we kind of trick our brains about like, well, if it's December, that should be wintertime. But a lot of years, like that's when the fall bite will still be going on, depending on what our summer and like that transition period is, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's like what 78 degrees, 80 degrees today. It was hot as hell today. So
it was humid.
It was real nasty.
And I was on Shenandoah River yesterday fishing, and the water temperature is about 73, which is obviously cooled off from where, obviously what it would have been a month ago when it was probably in the mid-80s or something, So, I don't know.
It's starting.
It'll be starting.
Slowly.
Well, guys, as we start, we'll be talking about smallmouth fishing here shortly. So get all your questions in now so I can have them primed ready to go. But let's keep going around the round table here. What have you been up to this summer?
Just working, man. That's what I've been doing.
No fishing at all?
No, probably back from the last time the water was up, probably in July was the last time that I've been.
Oof.
Yep.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
Yep. The old poor boat out there thinks I disown it. I mean, it's just, but
you'll be cranking up here soon, though.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping to get out there and just get some water.
Looks like it's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, eventually. But you're right. It kind of does separate you out because it makes the forks a lot harder. I have some friends. You can barely kayak some of the South Fork and the North Fork. Forget about it right now. It's so freaking shallow.
Yeah, and it's been the whole, like I said, same way in Tennessee. The water was horribly low.
Yeah, the whole East Coast is,
And they're running the same problem I think we're running into here, the pulling the water out of the river, the growth.
So much
draw. A lot of the water's being pulled out, and we're in somewhat of a drought, I guess you would say, with very little rain we've had, so it's been tough trying to have water to.
What do the smallmouth do when it gets this shallow, this hot? Are they finicky? Are they nervous? Do they enjoy having the water as shallow as it is?
You tell them about what you just did.
What did you just do?
I think when the water level gets as low as what it is like right now, you can find a nice deep ledge, and I say deep, even 4-foot ledge, within 50, 75, 100 yards of a nice set of riffles. Something that has a little shade along the bank, or maybe a log or a boulder rock laying in behind it. You'd be surprised at the amount of fish that are staged right there in just that individual single hole. Generally the food source is there, the crayfish, and there's definitely minnows up around the riffles. If they have shade along the bank and they have enough structure, and then of course the oxygen content there below the riffles. That's what I've been finding. When it gets low and gets tough and just gin clear and making long casts, taking that stealthy approach seems to work.
Those pools are untapped, I think. That's something, and we'll get into it, guys, when we really get it. Like when I did the Upper Potomac kayak tournament, I keyed in on deep holes. I mean, you can also catch them in like ankle deep water. I just think it's harder to track them, I guess, when you get into those riffles because you can't you just got to fish every single one to kind of get through it, in my opinion. But we'll get into that. Oh, you got some photos. I gotta share your photos. Hold on. That was silly of me. Here we go. Oh well, that's not big enough. There we go.
Yeah,
It's Tennessee.
there you go.
There we go. So where was this at?
So these photos are from this past Saturday morning. My wife Arlene and I, we put in at Riverton, there in Front Royal, and went down and fished around the train bridge there where the North Fork South Fork meet. Caught a few fish here and there. Nothing, any quality or size, but still, we're catching a variety of different fish. So we decided to head on up towards some faster moving water, which would, up the south side. And there was a couple of gentlemen up there fishing the actual stretch we wanted to get into, so we let them fish on through. And we just took our time and idled up, trimmed the jet up and just idled up, took our time and got up there to the first set of riffles that we actually came to.
Can see them in the background.
Yeah, there. And we, the boat's sitting in probably 12 inches of water. So we just pitched the anchor out, ate some breakfast, let the two gentlemen finish fishing through there, and then they started drifting back down. And we give them just time for the fish to pull back in those holes because they were kind of sitting right on them. Finished eating a little bit of breakfast, drank a little bit of coffee, and we started fishing those holes right there. And we literally sat right there with our feet in the water on the side of the boat and for 2 hours. And we were catching fish. We got 8 smallmouths, landed 8 smallmouths there that were over 3 pounds. The biggest one was 314. And then we were catching some catfish.
That thing is
here and there. But to see the amount of fish that were in that small individual hole, and you're talking a hole that's really the size of like a sheet of plyboard.
I'm telling you, it's
and
very
you're catching
small.
all these fish. All these fish are staged right in that one individual hole. And you can just about see that hole right there in the background of that picture. You see where that water turns green and
right in the
gets
back.
a little more depth to it. You see the
Yeah.
shade. You can see the shade line there along the bank. So that's all the things you want to look for when it gets tough. But you would hook one individual fish, and all these fish were caught on 4-pound line, little
Sure
5.5 foot,
Yeah.
little 5.5 foot
Wow.
St. Croix rod, and they're out there jumping. And we had a couple breaker line. We had a few pull off, but landed the 8. And the cool thing is when you would have one hooked up and you would get it out of the fast moving water and it would pull over like behind the boat motor, and you were shallower, calmer water where you could really see. There would be at times 4, 5, and 6 other smallmouth following this smallmouth right up close to the boat. So that just gives you a little bit of an indication of what's still left in that hole.
Are you actually seeing the fish as they connect with the bait?
These fish we weren't.
Really?
No, we weren't.
That's
Look at
wild.
the shade. They were in the edge of that shade line, and where that ledge dropped off, we couldn't see them. Now, once they pulled out of that hole and it wasn't too far, the 6 to 10 feet, you could see them.
I will never not get how cool that is, where you could see like I was fishing like push water in our riffle, and you can literally see ankle deep water, and you throw like your hellgramite out there, and there's a 3-pounder there, and like you can't literally see it. It's insane how camouflage they can be, whether it's a hole or a riffle. That always blows my mind.
And all these fish that we caught, they had just great color, which you can see there in the pictures. They were very healthy. Several of them had obviously fed up the night before. Their stomachs were nice and filled out. And then when we're idling up through, they're just taking their time. It's so crystal clear. You can see numerous, I call them little wolf packs, the smallmouth that are 4 inches up to 7 inches, 8 inches, and they're in them little packs of 6, 8, 10, 12, coming up feeding on bugs on top of the water. So you think they're bluegill. But once you get up there close enough that you can see, a lot of them were the real little smallmouth, which is great to see, because that's future years.
You said the minnow population was just enormous.
Yeah,
up
so
there,
right there where we were at, over in shallower water on the other side of the boat, there were just, like thousands of shiner minnows and sucker minnows. So I'm sure these bass were, once it turned dark, they were probably pulling out of these little deeper pools, and they were having a field day, through the night feeding, because you could tell their stomachs were, they were full.
What are you seeing bait-wise right now? What do you think they're keying in on? Let's go with Shenandoah and Upper Potomac right now. Is it minnows, bluegill, crawfish, a mixture?
Probably a mixture, I would imagine.
Right now it probably is a mixture, I would say. Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of everything.
Because I'm thinking, I think they actually key in on bluegill a lot more than I thought they initially did, especially the bigger ones. At least on the Upper Potomac, it seems like that. Because like with the bait selection I'm going to be talking about here, I'm assuming that's kind of what it, or it's a crawfish. It could also be that too. It also seems like it's tiny stuff too. Like compared to like the Susquehanna where they'll hit bigger crap, it just seems like the more you downsize on the Upper Potomac and the Shenandoah, you're going to be rewarded with a nicer fish, which is really kind of like, you got to it's inverse that thought process.
How has the Upper Potomac been, Thomas? I know you've been fishing that.
Yeah, I had a kayak tournament this past week. Had a bunch of friends out there too. Congrats to everyone that won that event. It was tough. It was tough to get a big bite. Where I thought they would kind of be, they weren't. The area I picked was a deeper hole, and I managed one that was 19.5, I think. Yeah, I got one that was 19.5. In practice, I got one that was 20 inches. So I thought I had plenty of fish in that area, but there just wasn't enough big ones. I only managed that one 19.5 and then a couple of 15 inchers, but it was slow dragging. It was nothing really, really fast. Again, one of the baits, I'll say that's a great little search place. A micro underspin. When you're talking about those tiny minnows, dude, going with that micro minnow bait, dude, it's so great when they're on those balls of minnows. And I feel like the fish there are very transient. There's a population that will just follow minnows up and down from Great Falls all the way up to the confluence. And it's like here today, gone tomorrow. You can see them in the morning, like there's these boils almost on the deeper pools. And if you find it, great. But the thing is, tomorrow they might be gone and you're only catching resident fish. Right. Mm-hmm. So it seems like they move more there than the Shenandoah, but I could be wrong. Cliff, what do you think? You're probably in the comment section. But we got Pod Save America. Let's what we got here. We got Pod Save America. It's always nice having Doc Hethcote on the pod, the legend himself. Y'all have a nice studio set up there, looking good. Thanks, boss. Yeah, you guys got any questions, just please send them in now. Yep, we're gonna get into all your fishing questions here soon. What do you guys think the top 3 patterns are this time of year? I have a thought: shade, the riffles, and then deep pools. Is that kind of your peanut butter and jelly at this point?
That's my thoughts. Is current, especially with till it gets cooler. Current and like Jeff and you were talking about, shade and the pools, more so than in the stagnant, deeper running water. I was fishing that yesterday and it was really, really slow.
Yeah, they gotta have oxygen right now, especially with the water being so low and the water temperature still in the middle 70s. To me, till it drops into the 60s, into the 50s. I mean, they'll start probably being closer to deeper water, but but like I say, I just haven't been. So
how's the topwater bite been? Because it feels like it's been off this year for me.
Yeah, I didn't have much luck yesterday fishing topwater. I was throwing buzz bait, which to me right now, this going into this fall transition that's a hot bait. I mean, that's one you need to have tied on. As a buzz bait, especially a big bladed where you can just barely roll it and it just clucking through the water. But I had a couple blow ups, but I didn't really.
Yeah, it's off. There's no doubt about it.
I had a whole lot better luck, and this is one of the baits that Doc throws a lot, is the jackhammer. When the river was up and still had a little color to it, I had a lot better luck throwing the jackhammer, not using it as a buzz bait, but running the jackhammer like 6 inches under the top, 4 inches under the top. Not that it was waking, but it wasn't far from it, almost like you was ripping a spinner bait And I was catching way more fish on that jackhammer than I was on a buzzbait. Yeah.
I'll tell you, this year has been the best year I've seen for using the jackhammer. I've had, or at least in my experience, I've had my best year ever using that particular bait on catching nice fish.
I will
really nice fish.
This has been my best spinnerbait bite that's lasted as long as it has. I'll say that. I feel like when I usually put down the power stuff and start dinking and dunking, we had a lot more water a lot longer this year to where it was, I would say mid-June, and I was still thumping them on a spinnerbait. And the Monocacy had some water push into it, and it dirtied up the Maryland side, so you probably could have gotten away with it during the tournament too, throwing a spinnerbait. But and the other thing is, like last summer, it felt like there's a lot more grass. Hopefully I'm not misremembering this, but a lot more grass in areas I fished. This year it was like none at all.
There's very little grass.
Yeah. And I wonder how that's affected them, especially with like the minnows. And then I don't even know if that affects the mad toms, honestly, with all that water. Because I haven't even seen a catfish, like those little ones. I haven't seen that, but it could just be the area that I'm in. Bait-wise, let's just start going around the horn here. Doc, pulling up here. What do you got?
I mean, I think, right now with this, at this time of year with the transition, fall is going to be, we're going to have, I think if you really look at the fall transition, once you start having these cool nights, even though it's hot during the day, I think that kind of gets the ball kind of rolling on this. The daylight starts changing. If you notice, it's darker, longer. You're out right now at 6:30 in the morning, it's still dark, so I kind of look at it as you really have to cover water, and not only cover area, but you also got to cover the different depths depending on where you're fishing. So basically the way I break it down is you got to have a couple, think about something top water, and that's why I use, like at this time of year, I like using a buzz bait. Of course, a walking bait would obviously be good. I'm not that good using a walking bait. I wish I was. It's something I really need to work on and probably use more to just get a better confidence level with a walking bait. But I love throwing a buzz bait, and I think definitely throwing like a soft plastic jerk bait.
Yep.
The fluke. I think that's a go-to, especially with the fact that the fish are on minnows this time of year. And that's a fun bite if you can get on a good one. And I've even used that, and I'm sure y'all used it too, is that donkey rig or a double fluke rig. That's a fun thing to use if you ever can, if you're happen to be on a good fluke bite.
I need to add that into the rotation again. Yeah. I don't think I've used that in a while, honestly.
Yeah, but so I like the top water look. That's kind of the go-tos for top water, at least have tied on initially. And then spinner bait, you got to have a spinner bait on. You just got to have a spinner bait on to cover water and be able to, hit the wood and slow roll across even the rock tops. So I like spinner bait. And a crankbait kind of goes along with that too, like a square bill. And a couple things on like a square bill, what I've run into in Tennessee, I caught a few smaller smallmouth on a little, or actually on a jackal square bill. And it was one I definitely did not want to lose. So a modification I made on that, and I'll show you, this is not a square bill, but I took the treble hook and I cut the bottom hook off of both trebles. And that made a world of difference in not hanging up. You see what I'm talking about? Let's say this hook's out there. You cut that treble off, so you got the two.
Okay, I see what
you with me? I just snip it off. And same with this one here. It's up there. You snip that bottom one off, and you wouldn't believe how the hang up rate was so much better. You're going over wood and stuff like that. And I still caught fish. You might say, well, you're not going to carry. You might not. You might end up losing some, but it actually worked real well in doing that. So that was a little modification I'd made on crankbait. So I like a crankbait, a 1.0, Strike King 1.0 or 1.5 even, but I don't know, the little smaller profile. And interestingly enough, I really like I like that chartreuse and black. I mean, everything, you think right now, well, match the hatch. Everybody's using, your shad patterns and this and that, but sometimes maybe something a little off kilter of the hatch might work. But
I'm guilty of not throwing crankbaits right now. And I think it's because it's so hot and muggy, and I feel like the fish are tawdry, so I tell myself they won't eat it. I have to wait till it gets cooler. And it's such a weird,
And another bait too, I think this time of year is probably overlooked, but probably we need to think about it more, especially if you're fishing a grass area, a grass lake, or a river's got a lot of grass. Is a something like a ruka shad, basically your a ruka shad, or you can use your basically a lipless crankbait of whatever lipless crankbait you want to use. I think those are really good going into this time of year to be able to, and and the good part about that, you can fish it however you want to fish it. You can fish it deeper in deeper water. You can fish it shallow, or however along that lines. And then two, me, I'm a big tube fisherman, so I always am going to be having something for a bottom fish. And my tube, I was using Kenny G's got a really good color I like, and it's got a new name now. It's the Raging Cajun. It's basically it's a kind of a green pumpkin with gold flake type tube. So anyway, I like having a tube available.
And guys, Jenny is not here this evening. She's out partying at a wedding or something like that. So I have a secondary camera here. On the re-upload, you'll have all of the baits perfectly in camera, so you can take a look at them.
Now, in reference to that buzz bait here, this here has got the big blade. Some of the blades are a little smaller, but that's got the huge blade on it, and you can kind of retrieve that at a little slower rate, and you got the good sound, with that. I like the big blade, so you don't have to quite go as fast sometimes in your retrieve. But anyway, I mean, I think to be honest with you, I think you could take these baits right here and go just about anywhere in the United States this time of year and catch fish. Is that right there?
I'm gonna go with mine. We'll go with my setup next. That way I can toss them to Doc and he can show them off to that camera there.
Yeah.
First one is I'm going, at least right now, if we're talking tournament, either jet boat or kayak fishing, I think tiny BFS stuff is going to get you bit, especially when they're dialed into that tiny stuff. The X80 Junior by Megabass, right here. I did not throw that far enough. That color on that one is absolutely my favorite. Megabass only makes this color for the 80 XR Junior, by the way, guys. They only make it for that color. That thing it's just beautiful in the water. When you hit it, the way it shimmers and it has a nice little glow to it, I really wish they made that specific color in different sizes. Please, Megabass, listen, because that little bit of orange there on the belly is just absolutely perfect. I really adore that. I'm gonna save that one for later. So let's just get into this, and I'm gonna get yelled at by everybody. The dice. I have won an ungodly amount of money the past year on this stuff. I've kept it under wraps some. I only let my Patreon supporters know about this stuff. There's a couple here. There is this looks like some kind of German thing. It's called the Big Shrimp Cricket. Let me pop one off here and I'm going to show it camera, and I'll get this to Doc. Here's this, and then here's
Have you thrown the dice?
that.
Have you thrown any of that? Me neither.
So with this stuff here, it kind of looks like some kind of weird
Porcupine.
Cthulhu hentai thing. What you do with this, when you're dealing with river smallmouth, you're gonna put a nail weight in this, and you're gonna go with like a 1/0 Nico hook. I found out that the best thing for this is a medium light 7.5 to 8 foot rod, so you get the casting distance and the whip with this. And you're gonna want this thing just heavy enough so it kind of slowly sinks, but when you're fishing like the deeper holes, you can just drift it next to the boat or the kayak. I don't know why it just works. I think it's the secondary action of this thing because when you either buy them or you create them, like I did, just have some extra. That skirt material, it just moves, undulates, and plumes, and you can throw that pretty much anywhere you throw like a Ned rig or tube or whatever, and you'll catch them. But it just seems like I personally feel like this works the best. A drop shot will work good, of course, but when it's almost weightless and it just kind of just drifts with the water, gets down to the bottom, and with that medium light rod, you can shake the line, and you can get that thing to just pulsate like that and quiver.
That's an awesome. Boy.
Yeah, it's really good. What I like to do with the shrimp is you can actually cut it in half and get 2 baits out of it. With smallmouth fishing specifically versus largemouth with these things, you're going to catch so many 7-8 inchers that will tear the bait off your hook eventually. So you can get the rubber like Nico stops and stuff, but just cut them in half so you have extra ones. Will work great. People ask me why I go with these versus like the cube. Problem with the cube is just getting the weight in there.
Let me see the cube. I'll show it to you.
With the regular dice that come out there, it's just a lot harder to put the weight into it. When you get something like taking a Senko and throwing skirt material on it or using a shrimp, it's way easier to shove a dice at one end. And what I usually do with the ones with 2 long strands is I'll put the Nico weight at the bottom. So when this thing hits the bottom, the 2 biggest pieces of skirt material are at the top like a crayfish. And when you hit that thing, it'll bend and it'll pulsate. And it works. It is the most boring way to fish. You have to take a sedative to throw this thing. I would literally idle up
Like
and
daddy long leg.
I would idle up with the kayak, cast out, and then just fall asleep and drift. And then all of a sudden it would go heavy. You set the hook and you catch one, and you probably lose the bait and have to redo the whole rig. Hellgrammite worked out really good for me too. Again, just this was more for the shallow water for some reason. I have no idea why. I couldn't catch them with this in like the riffles, but I could catch them with this. If I tried to throw this in the deep holes, I couldn't get them, but I could get them with this. So
How do you rig that Hellgrammite?
I will do it 2 different ways. I will do it with the standard like Z-Man hook, which seems to work the best, and then I'll Nico rig it. Just so with that bigger one, when you Nico rig it and you pull it, it'll fold, and it gets just an extra little bit of swimming action there, which seemed to me to work well too. And you could probably, I bumped that up to like a medium heavy rod when you use the Z-Man hook system. So when you set the hook, you get a little bit more meat to be able to like get the hook into them, because that Z-Man hook is, I could be wrong, it just feels thicker compared to like when I'm throwing like a tiny Nico straight shank. That Z-Man hook, it just seems a little bit thicker. When I tried to set the hook with that medium light, I just felt like a wet noodle, and it bowed and they would spit it. So I would go up to a medium heavy and it kind of worked fine. I got a couple more here to finish out for me yammering, but one thing about these here too, what I prefer to do is I'll go up to 10 to 12 pound test for my leader material until they tell me they want me to go down to your crazy 4. Just so that way, if I actually hook a big one in a tournament, I can boat flip them or I can deal with them with the net without an issue. So start out with a little bit heavier leader material with that medium light rod. You still get great casting distance. It just gives you a little bit more abrasion resistance. Last couple, of course, flukes. I don't really need to show those off. You got the llama tube, it's just a Z-Man. It's a tiny tube. There's been about,
Yeah, let me see.
there's about 1,000. Oh God, I am terrible with tossing stuff tonight. There's about 1,000 versions of this out there. This is the first mainstream, I think, tiny tube. There's been a ton of guys that have made tiny tubes before. That is
small.
That is
awesome.
That is small. Full disclosure, I don't throw that as much as I do the TRT. The micro Ned rig that Z-Man makes. I like that one more than that, but it works just as well. And black works well too. I like the black Ned rig micro. I think it's the micro Ned rig. The black micro is like one of my favorites. And then I got 2 more baits here that they're pretty much interchangeable. I've talked about this on the show a bunch, which is this beautiful micro underspin. And when Doc gets back, I'll toss it to here. This is a micro underspin. This is, I believe, the Dirty Jigs underspin head, and this has a Great Lakes. Is this the Great Lakes? Yeah, Great Lakes finesse. This is the 2.75 inch drop shot, and I think Kenny makes one too. He makes another one that's about the same color. Dude, this is like the size of a nickel almost. But what I like about this compared to the micro spy bait that they now have that Dual Realis has, this is a lot more weedless. And on spinning line, you can chuck this 1.5 miles, get great separation between you, the jet boat, the kayak, which is really important in this water. You get a little bit of flash. You can kind of find them faster. This new tiny Dual Realis. Yeah, Dual Realis. This is a game changer, but it's still got treble hooks. So you're going to snag a lot more with this than this. So I think it's just interchangeable. Choose your own adventure. It's basically, we're getting borderline just a crappie jigs. With all these tiny baits, it's crazy. Like, it's just really high-end crappie gear right now that we're dealing with. Because like 10 years ago, you didn't have like Japanese high-quality 1-inch, 2-inch jerk baits, but here we are now.
Finesse.
That's what you got to do. What 4-pound test are you using? Are you using mono or fluorocarbon?
Mostly mono.
Mono?
Yeah.
Why?
Mostly mono. Alpha, fluoro sometimes if I'm up north around Erie, brown trout, steelhead, that sort of thing. But here just in the rivers, I really don't see them shine away from the mono compared to the fluoro. And the brand that I have used for years is the brand name is called Sigma. I don't even think you can buy it anymore, but I have just huge bulk spools that I just spool my reels off of. I think some of the spools have 8,000 or 10,000 on them. They're huge. And I've literally had some of these spools for probably 25, 30 years.
Wow.
Just keep them cool, keep them out of the light. And they do fine. But me, I'm a light tackle guy. My wife is too, with trout fishing or bass fishing or really anything. We just got back from Buxton, North Carolina, fishing for saltwater for Spanish mackerel and bluefish and flounder and
fun.
We were surf fishing pretty much, and did good on Spanish, and we were catching 4, 5, 6 pound bluefish. But then the fun part was taking the little St. Croix rods with the 4-pound line and flounder fishing, with strip bait or little swimming mullets, gulp swimming mullets on a real little jig head. And, you're hooking 15 to 17 inch flounder on a 4-pound line. It's a good fight. And then you got the undertow, and the wash pulling against them. But it was a lot of fun. And of course, we trout fished. We trout fished all spring. We hit a lot in West Virginia, Warden Lake, Capon State Park. We hit Lost River. We hit Dillon's Run and Edwards Run Pond, and we just bounced all over. And the biggest trout that we had this spring weighed it was a rainbow come out of Warden Lake. It weighed 10 pounds 2 ounces.
That's a big ass
rainbow. It was huge. Man, it was huge. Yeah.
And that was on 4-pound line, on a 1/32 ounce jig head, and in about 14 feet of water. The second biggest trout come out of Capon State Park. It weighed, I think it was 712. It was also a rainbow. But we were very fortunate. We did really well on trout. We caught a lot of crappie this spring. Also, along with your bluegill and such, we did once the river started getting some water into it, and we were kind of done trout fishing, say at the end of May. We did make a quick trip down to Buxton, North Carolina, saltwater fishing about the 3rd week of May, which we hadn't did that for years, and had a great time. We were down there for a week, did good on Spanish and bluefish, throwing metal from the beach. And then we came back and we started, of course, there was plenty of water in the river, and we started hitting the river, and we were doing real well. And we mostly just kept putting in at Riverton. If you're catching fish, why leave? So it was kind of that. And then Doc and I, we met one evening down at Route 7 Bridge, and the river had came down, and it was fairly clear. And we had his boat, and we just slid the boat in, fished about for 2 hours, maybe 3 hours before dark, and just put the boat in at the ramp and just started fishing. And we drifted down. I don't think we barely got out of sight of the
Right.
bridge, maybe.
Yeah. A few hundred yards. Wasn't much
And
more than that.
And we caught quite a few
Yeah.
smallmouths, and we had
25 or close to 30 in
Yeah,
just a
and
couple
we had a-
hours. And he had a real nice one, about 3.5 pounds.
Yeah, we
Wow.
had that one was the biggest one, but I was amazed at the amount of catfish, schools of catfish that we were seeing down through there. 2.5 pounders, a lot of them.
Is it bad?
There was a lot of cats in there, but this time of year is something to keep in mind that I have found through the years. If you're in an area on the river and the water's gin clear, and you see a little rock ledge or you see a log, and you can spot that, and you're seeing these 1.5 to 3 pound catfish, and some of the schools there may be just 6 or 8 of them, but others, you're going to see 20, 25, or 30 cats. If you're seeing catfish, there's some decent sized smallmouth there close by. And that's kind of what we were seeing that evening below 7 Bridge. You'd see your cats, and not far from the cats, there were some smallmouths. Not your 10, 11, 12 incher. There was 15 to 18 inch smallmouth generally. It's not going to happen every time, granted, but and I've noticed that through the years. So that's just a little tidbit to throw out there.
How big of a catfish do you think a smallmouth would take? Do you think it's like 8 inches and under? Like,
Oh, I would say you take a 4 or 5 pound smallmouth, I think they could probably eat a 10 inch cat.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
'Cause that's still, I mean, especially those fins. That's a big profile that they have to down too.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the guys that are throwing big swim baits
Yeah.
for muskie and such. Some of these baits are big,
Mm-hmm.
and they're catching a 3 pound smallmouth that's coming up trying to actually eat that bait. So that's kind of tells you.
And I've always wondered for this, guys. Like, help us out in the comment section down below. Is that a feeding response, or is that a hate response of just trying to just attack out of just pure anger? Because I feel like with those bigger glide bait hits, I've at least seen one where they push it with their mouth shut, and it's like, so are they actually trying to hit that thing to consume it, or is it just it's so big that they're just mad at it and they're trying to get it out of there?
Yeah, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to say, but those smallmouth are aggressive. When they want to eat, they're going to eat.
Mm-hmm.
They really are. So, if they're taking in a 3 inch bluegill, which is broader in diameter, or a 4 inch bluegill with not much problem. So my wife and my daughter and I, we were up on the south side at Front Royal again. I want to say the water was still up a little bit. It started coming down. You were still able to run in the jet boat. So I'd say the south side was probably, I think it was like 2.2, 2.3 that day. We got into a school of smallmouths up there, just throwing minnow style baits. And I should have tossed the anchor out, but I just sitting there on the trolling motor. And all 3 of us are catching fish out of this one nice hole. And it was against a rock bluff. There was some shade there, plenty of current, plenty of structure. I threw out in the middle of the river, and I hooked a smallmouth that was about 13 inches. Got it up right next to the boat. And out of nowhere comes a smallmouth, and he took that smallmouth. I mean, I got a good look at this fish. The smallmouth was between 4 and 5 pounds. He come up and he took that whole smallmouth. And I just dumped the bail, and he swims back into the middle of the river. I'm thinking he's going to spit this thing out. So I pulled the bail shut and just took the slack out of the line, and he's literally swimming up the river. He still has a smallmouth. So I just give him a quick little pump and had this fish on for probably 6, 7, 8 seconds. And then he spit the bait out. And I got the bass back. So initially I had hooked, and I had a 1/32 ounce jig head, which is pretty small. And that's what was in the first bass's mouth. So I got the first bass back, and he had just a couple scales knocked off of him. And we kind of put him back in the water, and he took off.
That's a wild
So
trip for
that-
that guy.
That kind of tells you, when that 4 or 5 pound smallmouth, when he's in the mood, he's going to eat.
No bait's big enough. I mean,
No, he's going to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he may as well be a 40-inch muskie, because he's going to eat.
That's freaking wild.
Yeah,
dude.
that was crazy.
So,
Yeah.
with that said, I mean, you got a treasure trove of baits right in front of you. What do you got for us today?
So for me, if I'm on the water right now, the water condition being low and pretty much gin clear, one thing I wanted to point out is, right now is your time. If you don't like fishing low, clear water, that's okay. But right now is the time to go find your structure. Get in those 8, 10, 12-foot holes and float down the river and just take a look at the structure on the bottom. Find your ledges, find your log jams that are in 12 feet of water, and take a point of reference off the bank. So this coming spring, when it becomes, jerk bait time, or it's time to throw a hair jig, or if you're a tube guy like Doc is, you're floating down the river and you have a little more color to the water. You can't see that log jam in that 12 feet of water.
Yeah.
But you look up on the bank and you're like, there's that sycamore tree. Unless we had a big flood between point A and point B, that log jam's going to be there. So it's kind of almost like a sightseeing adventure to really find where your structure is. And you'll find not only ledges that are running, vertical across, but you're going to find your ledges that are running parallel with the river. And a lot of days you're going to catch your bigger smallmouth on those ledges. Now, you're not going to find as many, but they are there. And that's the time to find them.
And that's a great point. When you're not dealing with the classic just riffle pull part of the river. So from Pointer Rocks down to past Algonquian, I think a lot of it is just big isolated boulders in water that's 4 to 5 feet deep, and so a lot of that stuff you don't see. It's not breaking the surface like your classical, like you get on the South Fork and you have these perfect, like just textbook riffles and pools that you can visually I think that frustrates a lot of people. But when I was a kid and White's Ferry was still open, we took our tracker across and you could just waypoint them. When it was really shallow, you just waypoint them and then you can come back and fish them whenever. So that's a good point, is getting out there now and figuring out a way to triangulate and screenshot it, because that's where they're going to be when that water comes back up too.
So, for me, there a few weeks ago, I actually found a tree, and it's probably 10 feet of water, 10 feet of water. And as much as I'm on this area of water, I had no idea that this tree was there. So I just take a point off of the bank and just make a mental note. So, and this area it's a pretty well-known jerkbait area. So I would have a good eye, there's a good chance that this coming spring, there's going to be a lot of jerkbaits hung up on this tree. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen, because it's famous jerkbait spot. But yeah, just float down the river while you're fishing. Take a mental note of where all this structure is, because you're going to come back to these spots, whether it's next spring or even through the winter. It could be in a great wintering hole. And Riverton has some just outstanding wintering holes that are, I call them, they're guaranteed.
Yeah.
That you can pretty much go there and you're going to catch fish. Even when that water temperature really gets down, 36 degrees, 37 degrees, they're there, definitely. So some of the baits that I'm throwing now in the river that will definitely be laying, for instance, on the deck of the boat. I'm a light tackle guy. I'm going to have, you've got your gulp minnows. It's pretty much going to catch about anything. I've caught carp on them. Catfish love them. You're going to catch big bluegill. You're definitely going to catch smallmouth, largemouth.
These are 2.5 inch.
2.5 inch. I think that's a black shad color. That's a good color. The smelt color is also a great color. So if you have some younger fishermen in the boat with you, and put that on a 1/32 ounce jig head. You've got your power bait. You've got power bait minnows. that are very small profile. You know, and you're going to have a field day. You're going to catch about anything that swims in that river on that bait. And if you pair that up with like one of Roger's jigs, like a 1/32 ounce or 1/16 ounce, depending on the depth of water. Pitch it out. Don't wind it straight in. Just take your time. Crank the reel real slow, and just keep that rod tip twitching. And as long as you keep that minnow in that strike zone, you're going to catch a lot of fish, especially this time of year. And if you're fishing around cover, this is a great little jig head there. If you're fishing around brush, that really works good. I always keep some of those pretty close. Of course, they have those here at Jake's. So for the smaller stuff, and then as Gayland said, a buzz bait. Like right now, I will go to the smaller. I will go to the smaller profile buzz bait. For me, as opposed to the bigger, the bigger blades that are turning more water.
I like that thing.
It's
the old jackal.
It's a little shorter shank on it there, so that they're kind of less apt to short strike that.
You guys, I see all your comments. Don't worry, we're gonna get to your comments at the end of the show. Any questions you guys have? Best question of the night will win a gift card from Jake's Bait and Tackle. So get all those questions in there.
As far as the tube right now, Kenny G has this is a real good color. Gayland will hold it up there. You can see it's a little smaller tube. Yeah, it's an olive green. You can put that on a smaller jig head. I mean, you can fish it on a quarter, an eighth, just depending on how deep of water you're in. I will literally stick a 1/32 ounce jig head up in that tube, and I will fish that right below a set of riffles to get a very slow fall, and I can keep it up in the water column.
So since we are actually on a topical thing, let me find this question here. Oh, it's the first one. So Lance Gray, a great little question here. What kind of rod and reel setup are you throwing these small minnows on?
A little St. Croix, ain't it?
It's
Yeah, so I'm generally
extra heavy flipping stick.
10 foot.
musky rod. Yeah, I'm generally throwing all of my smaller baits on a St. Croix Premier, and it's like 5.5 foot.
5'6".
I think it's 5'6" or 5'8".
Yeah.
And it's a medium power, fast action. So that's for me, that's very important. Medium power, fast action, 4-pound line. A Vanford reel or a Shimano reel, whatever your reel preference is. Something with a smooth drag on it. Because keeping in mind you're only fishing 4-pound line, so if you get even a 3-pound smallie on there, he's going to put your drag to a test.
Yeah,
for sure. But the medium power, fast action St. Croix, it's I think like $140 rod.
It's a Premier rod, I believe.
Yeah, it's a Premier. Yeah.
Jeff, why is it that, or you take that rod, that 5'6" or 5'8", I can't remember exactly. I think it's around 5'6", if I'm not mistaken. Compare it to a 6-foot rod. How come there's such a difference in what you end up catching using these type baits compared to that 6-foot rod?
So I have a few 6-foot St. Croix Premier rods, medium power, fast action. They sit in my rod rack in the garage. I will literally have 4 or 5 of the 5.5 foot rods.
Fascinating.
On the boat, and the 6-footers will literally be sitting at home. It's just it's only 6 inches difference. There's so much difference between those two rods for me, and I feel pretty sure my wife's the same way. She will take that little 5.5 foot St. Croix and she will just catch fish after fish after fish, and that's her rod of choice. If I was to hand her a 6-foot rod, I would say within probably 10 seconds, she's going to hand it back.
What is the difference? Is it the feel?
It's the weight of the rod.
The weight. Okay.
And it's the feel of the rod, and it's all in that tip.
The tip. Yep.
I mean, even both, if they're both medium power, fast action, it's that the length difference, and it's the action in that tip. To answer the question, it's a perfect action for throwing these very small profile baits, and you don't want to throw it out and wind it in and do this. You want to pitch that bait out, and they'll tell you where they want it in the water column. So let it sink to the bottom. When you pull it up, you want to be turning the reel very, very slow. It's all in the rod tip. So you want that tip dancing.
Yeah.
And as long as that minnow is in the strike zone dancing, it's just like they can't take it. They have to eat that minnow.
That's cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, so that's just one of the little tricks, is keep that bait in the strike zone a little longer.
So it's really about, for you, it's you sacrifice the distance of the cast with a shorter rod, but you get the action of the tip that you want.
Right.
And that yeah.
Right. And you have a
fascinating.
lot more total control over that real small profile.
It's amazing the cast distance you can actually get with that 4-pound test line.
Kind of
too,
getting ready to
though.
say the 4
You
pound
know,
line, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah. You'd be
surprised at how far he can get that small, tiny little.
Now, do you ever go down to 2?
No.
That's
No,
what
I've never.
I was just wondering.
Just
I've
for
never
shark
fished.
fishing.
I would definitely try it, but I've never fished 2. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, you might have to try it. I'm surprised you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for you tournament guys, I'd say 5 if you're fishing a tournament, just because of having a weak constitution. if you have a fish worth some money on the line, but it works. It works, but you never break them off when you're actually fishing for fun.
But you know, with some of the lines this day and time, you know, and granted, some of them are. I mean, the price of the lines is ridiculous, but you can get, you know, like the Takatsu, the what is it? It's
Japanese stuff.
Yeah, it's the
Sunline, Gamakatsu.
Gamakatsu. Well, no, it's not Gamakatsu. It's it's basically the cigar, but I think it's Takatsu or Tatsu. It's a pretty high level. It's a kind of costly line, but the diameter of that line and the strength, you can get like an 8-pound test strength, and the diameter is very, very small. But once again, you're paying. I use it a lot for like leader line. You spend pretty good bit of money. You know, it might be $30 for 200 yards or whatever, but you can make a lot of leader, and that's because I'm always fishing on fishing with the braid and using 10 or 12 foot leaders or whatever of it, so it lasts a long time.
We didn't even talk about that. Are you fishing straight 4 or are you fishing braid to 4?
Straight 4.
So he's actually fishing full spool 4-pound test, not braid
straight
to
4.
leader. Yeah, that's good. God, that's wild.
Yeah, straight 4 all the way.
See what that is on that.
Oh my goodness! And I think the jig head there is really important. So guys, yeah, let's get to everyone's questions right now. If you're on Instagram, I can't share it on the screen, but if it's on Facebook or the old YouTube, I can share it. Best question of the night will win a gift card at Jake's Bait and Tackle. I'll try to get that gift card out to you guys tomorrow at some point. I'm not gonna be able to get to it today, but you can just let me know when you win. So let's start here back up on the top. Sounds good. Blah blah blah. It's always have him on there. Let's see. We got hello everyone. Couldn't make it tonight to the podcast. Sounds good. Kenny G. Okay, dude, you're here with us in spirit. Catch them on the small BB jig and with the Berkeley flatworm trailer. Flatworm, dude, is absolutely deadly, especially for smallmouth. Like a drop shot flatworm is absolutely deadly. We got Tom in the house. Tom, I can't believe you're not here tonight. We have noticed a big difference between the fluoro and mono. Mostly the fact that mono floats and the fluoro sinks. It changes how the bait on light line reacts. 2 guys fishing the same bait on the same weight line. 1 guy getting bit more than the other. Yeah, and also I think a mono not only does it have more stretch, I think it's more abrasive resistant. Especially the mono today, like today's 2025 mono is just so much better than 30 years ago. It's not even. I think if we as fishermen, we just rely on so much about like rumor and what we were taught, and so growing up, it's like, well, mono is old school, and there's too much stretch on these issues. But that's not the case with the mono now. Like the mono now is like really good, and I'm starting to use it more for leader material. And so many, like if I'm fishing the tidal Potomac, they can't see shit. So I'm just going to go with a mono thing that's get a little bit more shock absorption if I have to like slackline a bass or something.
But that line I was telling you about was Tatsu.
Tatsu.
Cigar Tatsu. I said Tatsu. It's Tatsu, the cigar.
Let's see, we got Cliff Bennett. I put waypoints on every rock and ledge and structure when the water is low and gin clear.
Good point.
It's what you got to do. I think again, if
It'll
you're,
pay off.
It will. And if you're new to fish in the river, canoe, kayak, jet boat, whatever, if you don't have a fancy GPS or a Garmin or whatever, take your phone with your map and then just drop a pin and then screenshot that, and then at least you have it on the map somewhere, and then you can triangulate, because so much of the upper Potomac, you're not fishing classic riffles, you're fishing massive boulders that are just underneath the water. And believe it or not, it's easier to see those, I think, when you have ripping current, because it creates those seams as the water hits it. But when you have low flow, and it's very deceptive because it's all like glass and it's hard to tell. But I remember I fished a tournament in May, and you could see, because the water was ripping so hard, when it would hit one of those boulders underneath the water, you get a boil, and it was a lot easier to kind of identify them. So just some food for thought there with that. Let's get to the next question here. Okay, we already answered that one there. We got Tom. Is there anywhere to fish the Susquehanna with a canoe safely? Ooh, that's a good question. There is a big, yes, there is. Let me think for a second. There is about 58 dams, and I'm being sarcastic, on the Susquehanna. So you do have to watch out for that. There is a dam in Harrisonburg. So you can fish below that dam, and you would actually be good. You could float down through that section there. So yeah, there's a ton of safe places you can do. The biggest thing, Tom, I would say, is get online and you can Google all the different dams that are out there, and then you can just do that accordingly to it. And you really don't need to float that far. So again, I feel like I'm doing too much talking, but the Susky is so cool because with the parts of the Potomac and the Shenandoah, you fish up and down. The Susky's so freaking wide, it's almost you can fish left to right in a section. You don't have to, it's wild the one time I was there, how big it is.
Jeff, what do you think about up around the campground area, reference to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's right now, especially with the water being, around 3 foot, it's surprising how fast the water still can be at 3 foot. I mean, you still got quite a bit of flow, but like Thomas said, the dam you're talking about is down below City Island. Mm-hmm. That's the dam there, and then I guess the next one would be way on up. That would be what's that?
Sunbury, way up there?
Yeah, up in that area. Yeah. I can't even think of the name of it. It starts with an S. Yeah. And, but.
I just got thinking around the campground there, you got that ledge, of course, but above it and that flat before the ledge,
between
and then
there
below
and
the ledge down to
Montgomery,
that down through there, before you get in the riffle to go down to Montgomery. Right. There's good fishing in there. You can fish easily all day in that area with a canoe.
Well, like you just said, it's so wide. I mean, there's so many
back and forth, across.
So many fish in there. I mean, it's
And I think that's the thing I learned real quick the one day I was up there is you don't necessarily, if you want to, you could blast and cover miles and miles, or you can fish left to right, and you can probably find 2 or 3 pods. Which is it's interesting compared to, like, again, the Shenandoah, where you fish a pool and then you go up or down to get to the next pool, versus there it's like, or you just move 30 feet to the left or right and you hit another group of fish.
So many islands.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, get to the next. We got a question here on Instagram. If you're fishing islands in the summertime, what side of the island do you fish? The shallower or the deeper side of the island? So Cindy Oval said, let me try again. So in the summertime, what side of an island do you fish? The deeper side or the shallower side? So
well, it depends if you're floating down, you come to the top of it, you're definitely going to be fishing the shallower. Yeah. And then most time the bottom would be the deeper. So
if you had to pick, you go left or right, the left side of the island is going to be super shallow and riffly, the other side's deep.
In the day of the summer.
Where's the shade at?
Oh, there we go. That's a good one.
That's probably the quencher there. And the
what time of day is and where's the shade at?
And the current, thinking about the current.
Is it sunny or is it cloudy? I mean,
if the current's there and you got you're more oxygenation. It's dead heat of the summer versus, another time when the place you might want to fish is above the point, beginning of the island and below the island, and forget the sides of the island. But
like in the summertime, like Gayland just alluded to, if I'm floating and I see an island, the first place I'm going to hit is from the very top point of that island coming at me 20 yards.
In the front. So
In
as
the
the
front.
current's hitting the island.
Right.
Okay.
Simple reason for that is there's almost always a school of shiners on the front side of those islands. Almost always. In the middle of the summer. Yeah.
How important is the current when it comes, like, if you have, like, Doc, you were saying, if you have deep water but there's no current, no oxygenating, is that a better deep water pool versus one that you have good current and then there's a deep water pool associated with that?
to me, it's not. I mean, I like the current. I mean, I think there's something about the current's going to. I think the fish are going to be attracted to the current. Nothing else is bringing,
Bait.
bait in that
final
area.
form,
If nothing
okay.
else.
So current, like a deep hole associated with current, something
yeah.
like that, versus that big slack. Okay, that makes sense. All right, let's get it back up here. Catching from this. I think this one. Sorry, guys, got to find my place again.
While you're finding a question, I got a question for Jeff
Go
here.
for it.
When you start, I know your fishing will start picking up here soon. So, like when you hit the Susquehanna, and I know a lot of it depend on the weather and what the water conditions are and level and all that, but what's usually your thoughts going into your fall fishing on the Susquehanna? Like, what you typically start targeting, and what type of bait will you initially be starting out
Well,
with
everybody
using?
knows. I mean, I love throwing a crankbait.
Yeah.
And I will.
Even
95% of the time will be a crankbait,
Crankbait.
and I'll have like a 1.0 or
Yeah.
even a 1.5, and just in a crawfish color, or and then always spinnerbait.
Yeah.
Um,
You just start on the grass islands.
grass islands,
beds
yeah,
all that,
and just anything to kind of breaking the current.
yeah.
It's just something that I
Right.
learned over the
Oh,
years.
yeah.
And
You're very good at it.
Great question here on Instagram from Curbs302, which is, when do you guys consider the water conditions truly fall? So, guys, if you didn't hear that in the mic, so when would you consider it fall fishing? Not calendar wise, but the conditions scream to you like this is 100% we're in the middle of fall. Are you looking for a temperature? Are you looking for like what the fish are doing? What would you consider?
Temperature is me.
Temperature.
Temperature?
Yeah.
once-
I think it's
60. I mean, I'm gonna say 60 or below.
60 or below. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
For me, it's not just one thing. It's probably a constellation of things. It's the change in the daylight. It's the change in the nighttime temperature.
Mm-hmm.
It's the change in the water temperature. That's I kind of look at all that, because I think there's going to be different phases of the fall. Obviously, right into the winter phase. It's going to be the early, mid, and late fall.
Yeah, because I almost think we're just in it, you would call this early fall or late summer almost,
Late
because it
summer.
feels like it's
Yeah,
late
it's not
summer.
even the fall yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a good. I mean, by calendar, yeah, you would think, but by the conditions and the water temperature, we're still, I will say, at least maybe even a month away from it.
So yeah, for me, when you have your time change, so what's that in October, and you start losing X amount of daylight, and then when that water temperature, and generally by then you're going to get, I don't want to call them a cold front, but you're going to have a front or two blow through. Your wind's going to be out of the northeast, and you get gust up to 20, 25, maybe 30 mile an hour. And that's going to start cooling your water down, especially if you get a stretch of cloudy days where that sun's not beating in them shallows, not warming up those small creeks that are feeding in. You're going to see that water temperature. It's not going to nosedive, but it could drop 3 degrees in a matter of a couple of days when one of those cold fronts decides to swing through. And then when that water for me, when that water temperature gets down to about 50, 52, 53 degrees, these fish that I've been catching up where Doc was yesterday, you could easily go up there and these fish are gone.
Yeah.
Where did they go?
They have pulled back. They have pulled back to their first transition stage, which will be, it could be your first 6, 7, 8 foot hole down from where they were spending their summer up in these riffles, in these little ledges that have the little 4 foot drops. So basically for me, it's a complete reverse. Where would I have targeted these smallmouths back in the spring, right before they were getting ready to go to spawn? When I was throwing a jerk bait in that good jerk bait hole, the last deep hole before the migration into the shallows. So it's a complete turnaround. It's just a complete reversal. That's where I'm going to start looking for these fish to be. Once that water temperature hits 50 or so.
Okay.
And once it gets on down to about, I'd say 44, I'm going to start heading on down to what I consider wintering holes. And that's where I'm going to start. They may not have transitioned to that winter hole yet, or not all of them. But it's like Doc says, not all these fish pack up their bags and move all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a slower process. So
especially where we're located, unlike Canada. I mean, like, we have these long, again, what Chris Gorsuch told me a couple years ago was, so guys, go check out that episode about the calendar deceives you because you say like it's October, so therefore they should be doing this, but the weather conditions aren't there. And he said like sometimes you have the best fall bite in December, and that makes sense, especially when it's freaking 85 degrees here September 26th. I mean, it's crazy.
You know, you wake up in the morning, you go out and you say, gosh, I need a good thick sweatshirt on, a good thick hoodie, and this and that. And that's the way it is. You know, when you get out there and go fishing early in the mornings, when you're starting to have them kind of mornings, you know it's
time.
It's
brisk,
coming around.
Can't come fast enough.
Yep, it's coming around.
Something else I heard from, I don't know who's listening to Trout Unlimited or something like that, but another cause and effect is the fact that the bugs start dying off. And so when you get that first cold snap and you realize when you leave your outdoor light on, guys, and you don't have any bugs anymore, that's part of the food chain where that's what all the minnows were feeding on that creates those balls of bait that they're staging on. And so it's like that's just another part of the food system that starts to shift. I never even thought about that before, but it makes so much sense.
And think about the grass too.
Yeah.
You'll start seeing your grass die off. And that's a good time to key in on the areas of the grass that's still green. You have some areas that are still vibrant. Key in on those areas because you'll get on some fish in those remaining areas. But that grass will start, that grass will start dying off and, turning yellow and then brown and, go on. So that's another way to tell that, you're.
We're getting there. We're getting there shortly. All right, guys, let me double check to make sure we got all of the questions answered here. And it looks like we do. Perfect. I think we're all up to speed. What does Cliffy have here? He says 55 and daylight. I think daylight's a bit. Daylight's huge, especially for grass. If you're on a grass fishery, when that daylight dies back, that's when the grass will start dying back. We don't have an issue on that on the river because it all got blown out because of all the rain we've gotten. Or guys, let me know in the comments section. I just haven't seen a lot of grass this year, and at least the people I've talked to say the same thing. So who knows? What you guys got coming up on the schedule? Are you going somewhere else? Dubai, California?
I got a trip down New River coming up and up this upcoming month in October. I'm gonna go down fish New River a couple days. So I'm
That'll be
looking forward
fun.
to that trip. Really excited about that because I hadn't been on the New River in a while, and I hope about late October will be good. Good time. And then I got a trip back up north to Lake Ontario in about middle of November. Looking forward to that, getting on the late, it would be obviously probably a late fall bite. Well, once again, depends on the weather, but typically you'd think you'd be getting on a mid to late fall bite there, which would be good because them fish will hopefully be moving in, be some fish in the shallower areas and really get on some nice big smallmouth because they'll really be feeding up, man. They'll be going game on, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a place.
6-pounders.
I'd want to fish more than the Susky, I think, just because you have the potential to catch a 10-pounder basically. That place is so cool, and it's rural. Like you're in the middle of nowhere when you go down to the New River Valley. So, what is the coolest place you've gone so far to chase smallmouth? You've been all over the world.
I'll tell you what. I think it's hard to say. I mean, I've been blessed to be able to fish smallmouth in a lot of places, north to south. But I'll tell you, this Canada trip recently, in reference to the scenery and the environment and the non-populated area, was really unique. Because if you think about a lot of places we fish is really, I mean, it's fish. They're fished. I mean, they're heavily, a lot of these areas are heavily fished, to a degree. It's not like but when you go out a place, you spend all week on a place fishing and you see one pontoon boat, the family's just going across the lake, and you see one other fish boat, boat fishing. You don't hardly see that around anymore, So when you go to a place like that, it's real unique, and I think and the fish we caught, it was the kind of these fish. I don't know. They may have never seen a jackhammer before some of these lakes we were fishing up there. Because they're hard to really get into, and it's not like you're going to just pull your bass boat in, back it off, and go. It's not that way. One lake we fished in, we literally had to go about 100 yards up over a big knoll carrying the gas motor, the electric motor, and the trolling motor to go over the knoll to go to another boat that's just beached on the other side in another lake.
Wow.
And then re-rig everything on that boat and fish that lake. So, that was kind of really neat for the terrain and the wildlife. But, I love the Susquehanna River. I love fishing up north. Up north is the only problem I run into up north is it's so weather dependent for everybody, especially for me and my boat that I have to use in my jet boat. I'm real limited. But, if you like Jeff and you got a big center console boat that you can use, or a 21-foot glass boat, you got a whole lot more options. So therefore it's fun. And I'll tell you another thing was the fishing at Lake Erie, not in Lake Erie per se, but the distributaries to Lake Erie, Elk Creek. We did some stream fishing up there. Literally creek fishing. And I'll tell you what, that was some of the funnest fishing I've done in a long time. It's back to old school, old day. You got your rod and your backpack, and you're out there walking up and down the creek, and just catching some, nice 2.5 pound smallmouth on that creek. It's like, that was awesome. And Jeff having these ultimate days. I'll tell you, I'm sure he caught, one day we was up there fishing. I know he had to catch, it must have caught 75 to 100 brown trout. It was like every cast he was catching brown trout.
How did you target the brown trout? Like, were you just same baits? Were you throwing?
Yeah, he was right there. He was catching there, and then he would catch a 7 pound steelhead and go running up the river.
What's that like?
That's on that 4 pound line, that little rod. Wasn't throwing a noodle rod like a lot of the guys use the noodle rods. Oh yeah, that was crazy. Because a lot of them steelheads, they're out of the water as much as they're in the water.
Yeah.
And fight. Yeah, you don't land them quick. That's for sure.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, you have to really take your time with those. Yeah. But that experience was an experience that I will be repeating again.
Exactly. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but going back to some of that root,
yeah, it's
just
fun.
like in Canada, no electronics, just out there in basically a rowboat with a trolling motor and couple rods. That's exactly right. And it was a lot to be said for that. And really, when you catching fish, really topped it off. Catching some nice fish, knowing you can do that still at places.
And I think that's what's so nice about nowadays where there's so many options for like the BFS or the tiny stuff where, I mean, you're getting into almost crappie territory when you talk about this is like an underspin that you'd go crappie fishing with. This is bass tackle. This is a Japanese jerkbait that's the size of my pinky. And you can tie this on and go to the Conica jig, Seneca, Goose Creek, whatever, and just weight it and you'll catch everything that swims. And so it's really cool that we have these options now that you can basically tie on one bait and literally catch anything that's in the waterway. We did have one question that came in that I want to get you guys to answer. Are all river smallmouth created equally? Have you seen from all of your experiences on different rivers, is there kind of a through line with how they act, or is each river unique in how the smallmouth behave?
Well, in my experience, I think it's it's a typical way I fish, and that's, you look for the same thing. I look for the same thing. I look for current breaks. Depending on, I don't care if it's the Tennessee River or if it's at Niagara River or Presque Isle Bay or anywhere you can see current. I think that's key, and I think structure's key. I mean, especially rocks. For me, is key. Rock, the rock piles. But in these streams and these smaller rivers, I think the current breaks are really, really key. To me, I'm not lake fishing. I struggle with lake fishing. I mean, you look and you got a big pond of water. It all looks the same, right? I mean, it's a big bowl of water. So, if you don't really know what the underneath structure is, whereas a river, you can kind of read it. You got the ripples, you got your structure, it's just like catfishing down on the Duck River the other week. We come across an old tree, a tree in the river. You kind of get down, up above. We'd actually get above the tree and cast to the end of the tree, and sure enough, it'd been an old big cat laying in under there, and there they were. So you was able to kind of read what where you wanted to fish. And I kind of think that's the way. That's what I find in smallmouth fishing, whether it's the Shenandoah or the Susquehanna or the Niagara River. I think there's certain things we tend to look for, whether it be the current breaks or the islands and fishing the top and bottoms of the islands or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whereas lake fishing, I think it's a little bit tougher in that, you need to know, if you got rock piles or, well, I can tell you can go some of those places up north. If you don't get on a rock pile, you can forget it. Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, do y'all agree with
absolutely.
that? I mean, if you can't find the rock, you can sit out there all day long.
Most time where them big rocks are, up north is where the gobies are.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So, that's a big thing there. Is like, are they there because of the bait versus?
Yeah, and that's why them fish get so big.
Up north, they're feeding on gobies. I mean, there's other baits that they're feeding on, but they hate gobies. So if you can get on a rock pile, which the gobies love getting in the rocks, you can get on a rock pile, in the spring. I mean, even starting like late March into the very first part of April, you're going to catch more quality and not the numbers most of the time. And it is weather dependent, just like Doc was saying. But yeah, if you can get a tube, the right color tube, and you get on that rock pile, the earlier you're up there, you may only catch 2 or 3 fish off that rock pile, but they could all 3 be 5-pounders.
Yep.
You could go back 3 weeks later, and you'll catch 15 or 20 fish on the same identical rock pile.
2 pounds.
And the biggest one might weigh 3 1/4.
I'm going to add to that too. I think for a lot of people, because I get this a lot about new people fishing the river, they moved into Loudoun County and stuff, is you're not going to necessarily always see the fish. And it's whether you're scoping in 30 feet of water and you see a boulder, or you're just floating the river and you see a big rock. Approach it almost like fly fishing with how you set up your cast, because there's probably one there. You won't see it. I've seen that in the wintertime with a scope where you see a boulder and there's nothing there until you throw your minnow out. Then all of a sudden it just comes off the bottom. And it's the same thing if you got like a foot of water. It's a beautiful boulder submerging, like, oh, there's nothing around there. It's like, no, there probably is. You literally cannot see the fish if he's hunting. Like it's crazy to me how camouflaged they are in these stupid rivers. I had one in the tournament, and I have costas, and I'm looking at this boulder. I knew there should be one there. I throw the Helgramite above it, let it float down. Sure enough, thunk. Don't know where the hell he was, but he was right there. It's just
stealthy.
They're so stealthy. It's like a deer in the woods. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. But guys, I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming today. Lance Gray, you are the winner of the gift card. Again, Lance, you're the winner of the gift card. So you have my information. Reach out to me. I'll get that to you tomorrow at some point, big dog. Any closing thoughts, anything like that before we get going here?
I was just going to show that picture, that just showing stacked fish on a ledge. If you can show that, those are smallmouth, just showing them, you know, how they stack up right there on the drop-offs.
That's crazy.
And those are big fish.
That's wild.
You know, just y'all have all seen that probably.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
How deep was that water?
About, I don't know, it's probably 20 foot, isn't it?
20
Close to
foot?
it, 20 foot.
Mm.
Right on the ledge. And they're nice smallmouth because I ended up catching one right there on that spot.
Really?
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome.
And that just, you know, just show people how they stack up, especially in the spring, in the lakes. That's where your electronics come in to help you there.
Mm-hmm.
Fixing to move in on them rocks.
Well, right there it was 11.9 feet.
Yeah.
12 foot of water.
How much current do you think was in that place?
Oh, there was a lot of current right there. It's pretty swift, but it's right there. That's right on the current break.
Okay.
Right on the current break, and then, you know, right there's what come off.
Guys, I'll put this picture right above my head. Good God. That's a freaking monster. That's a freaking monster, dude. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. It's late on a Friday night. If you guys have any questions, reach out to me, fishingthedmv@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram. We'll get all your questions answered. Again, if people want a gift card, just reach out to me, and I'll get that to you guys tomorrow. Be safe, and we'll see you guys next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.